The people that were questioning that statement, was it too tough? Maybe it wasn't tough enough. They've been doing this to our country for a long time, for many years. And it's about time that somebody stuck up for the people of this country and for the people of other countries. So if anything, maybe that statement wasn't tough enough. And we're backed by 100% by our military. We're backed by everybody. And we're backed by many other leaders. And I noticed that many senators and others today came out very much in favor of what I said. But if anything, that statement may not be tough enough.
What would be tougher than fire and fury?
Well, you'll see. You'll see. And I will tell you this. North Korea better get their act together, or they're going to be in trouble like few nations ever have been in trouble in this world.
Wow. All right. So Mike Barnicle, one day he threatens nuclear annihilation of North Korea, the likes of which nobody's ever seen before. And the next day he goes, well, actually, that threat wasn't tough enough. You sort of understand why David Ignatius said this is the art of the deal meeting Dr. Strangelove.
That's correct, Joe. I mean, the President of the United States basically saying, bring it on again. And David Ignatius, writing in the Washington Post today, says that, quote, in dealing with North Korea, Trump needs allies, not bombast. President Trump has decided to confront what's probably the most reckless, risk-taking regime on the planet. His hope for a diplomatic solution depends on convincing North Korea and China that he's ready for the fire and fury of nuclear war should negotiations fail. If Hollywood were pitching the story, it would be the art of the deal meets Dr. Strangelove. The United States can't go it alone in Korea in either war or peace. The danger is that Trump's rhetoric could destabilize partners more than adversaries. At a moment that requires subtlety, Trump unwisely amped up his rhetoric once more Thursday, warning the North Koreans of things they never thought possible. He talks like the promoter of a WWE wrestling match, but this is real. At least this is real, but it's also, reading between the lines, reading the lines themselves, incredibly dangerous.
Well, and you look at, this is not happening just in a vacuum with North Korea. You look at how President Trump has upped the bombing campaigns in Iraq, in Syria, in Afghanistan, where in the first 6 months he's nearly doubled the amount of bombs that we've dropped, and some independent monitors are saying that the civilian casualties are up by 10 times the amount that they were in the previous administrations. This is disturbing, and we've become really immune and detached from a foreign policy that is so militarized and so over-reliant on force. And right now, we should be having more public outcry about what does this idea of preventative war with North Korea mean?
Well, there's this undeniable chaotic aspect to everything that's going on, everything that's coming out of Trump's mouth and the conflicting messages you're getting from defense and state and the White House. There are two principles here that are kind of undergirding what Trump is trying to accomplish, if you read very carefully what he was saying yesterday. The first, I think, is less likely to succeed and a lot riskier, and that is to try to draw North Korea to the negotiating table. I don't know how well that's going to work. But the second point, which I think is more likely to succeed and a little bit more rational, is that, you know, Russia and China have to take ownership of this problem as well. And that's what Trump was saying yesterday when he said, you know, I have great respect for Russia and China because they didn't oppose the Security Council resolution. So I think the White House sees some hope there in making them more equal partners.
And Casey Hunt, we saw yesterday Lindsey Graham and a few other Republicans coming out talking tough on North Korea. There are a lot of Republicans and some Democrats privately that have lost patience with China. China, of course, you know, one of them called North Korea China's 51st state. Because they're the ones that float them. They're the ones that give them all of their imports, that take all of their exports. They're the ones that have been sitting by quietly over 30 years as this crisis has gotten more and more significant. So where are the Republicans on Capitol Hill with Trump here? Are they at the end of the day going to line up behind him on this, outside of course, John McCain?
Well, Joe, look, I think that there's a lot of deference, both with Republicans and Democrats. I mean, this is a crisis and a situation that really unifies people across both parties, with the exception of some people on both of the edges. Even, Chuck Schumer's initial statement said, look, we have to be deliberate and very strong in dealing with North Korea. Now, he also took a shot at the president for his rhetoric around the nuclear issue. But I think now there is a significant level of fear, quite frankly, coming from both Democrats, obviously, but from a lot of Republicans behind the scenes. Because, again, and we've talked about this over and over again, whether or not the president is a Republican, is not a Republican. Republicans in Congress, Republicans in government have viewed themselves since Trump was elected as the ballast in the ship of state. And this is the crisis that has most threatened to set the entire ship potentially sinking. And I think they may not be saying it publicly, but there's a lot of fear behind the scenes.
There is a lot of fear behind the scenes, Mike Barnicle. There's also a lot of frustration, though. This is something even people high up in the Bush administration said, hey, this is something we screwed up. The Clinton administration dropped the ball on it. The Bush administration dropped the ball on it. The Obama administration kicked the can down the road. It's fascinating. You have Republicans and Democrats alike, from the Bush administration, the Clinton administration, and the Obama administration, all saying quietly behind the scenes, yeah, we could have done a better job on that. And the can has been kicked down to the road to the point now where over the next 4 years, probably even sooner than that, North Korea will be able to deliver a nuclear weapon to Seattle, to Portland, to San Francisco, to Los Angeles, and all points in between. So this is a fascinating time. People are frightened by what Donald Trump's saying. At the same time, they know that some really tough decisions are ahead.
Yeah, well, and one of the tough decisions, Joe, ahead in the immediate future, not next month, not next year, but right now, is if North Korea decides to have a missile test anytime within the next week, the defense establishment, substantial elements of the defense establishment are going to say, okay, that could be nuclear tipped. And what's our reaction? What's our reaction to a test missile run that the Defense Department and the intelligence agencies say, hey, wow, it's up and it's nuclear tipped? What do we do then?
Yeah.
That's our problem. That's the world's problem.
Joe, just very quickly,
it's
done. I actually, nobody's been more critical of Trump. I didn't have a huge problem with what he did, to tell you the truth. And I think you were kind of dancing around it just now in that we have a leader in North Korea whose only objective is to stay in power. He doesn't want to blow himself up. And I actually think that rhetoric was kind of needed at this point. As nobody's been more critical of this guy. I and a lot of people I talked to also, and this is not going to do well for me in the Hamptons this weekend, under their breath was saying, you know what, maybe that needed to be said.
Well, I've got to say, Donnie, of course, I never go to places like the Hamptons. I'm man of the people right now in Middle America. But I will tell you, I have been shocked in Middle America hearing people saying the same thing. Behind the scenes, yes, they're frightened by the rhetoric, but at the same time, then they say, well, you know what, though? What the hell did Bill Clinton, George Bush, and Barack Obama do? We haven't been standing up to the Chinese for 30 years.
But really quickly, Joe, this is just how the snowball effect starts. Wars are very easy to get into, and it gets nasty really quickly. And that's why we all should be having a debate about what this means if we are going to have military strikes against North Korea.
Well, this would be the nastiest of debates. Some people are out there saying, oh, well, we rolled over Iraq in a couple of weeks. North Korea is not Iraq. It would be extraordinarily ugly, not only for American troops and North Koreans, but South Koreans, possibly Japan. This would be as ugly as it gets. We'll talk more about that. Also, still ahead, the president shocks members of his administration once again with another freewheeling response to a serious foreign policy matter. This time, he actually thanks Vladimir Putin for expelling U.S. diplomats.